Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says the functioning of the Enforcement Directorate. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. When we look into the creation of the Enforcement Directorate, the origin of the directorate goes back to the year 1956 when it was created as an enforcement unit formed under the Department of Economic Affairs for handling exchange control laws and its violations under the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. So it was created back in the year 1956 under the FERA Act, basically to handle exchange control law violations under the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. Over a period of time, the Enforcement Directorate has also become part of multiple other laws as well. What are these laws? Let's say, for example, we have the Prevention of the Money Laundering Act, Fugitive Economic Offenders Act, Foreign Exchange Management Act, and FERA. So initially, which was only part of FERA, is now expanded its role and it is part of the multiple other statutes as well as laws. Now the question is, what is the job, what is the work profile of the Enforcement Directorate? The Enforcement Directorate under the PMLA basically looks into the money laundering issues. What exactly happens in money laundering? When we speak about money laundering, there are three important stages. One is what is called as placement. Second is what is called as layering. Third is what is called as integration. How does this money laundering work? Let me explain this with the help of an example. Let's say we have an individual. This individual is involved in illegal activities. What does he do? He has connections with the drug mafia. He also has connections with the organized crime units like the terrorist unit, or it can also be the extremist unit or the Naxalite groups as well. So what does this person do? He gets the money from these extremist organization, drug mafia, terrorist organizations, organized crime organizations, and converts them into the white money. So how does he do all this? That is where you have something called as the money laundering stages. The first stage is what is called as the placement. So the proceeds of crime, which can be because of dacoity, or it can be because of killing, or it can be because of kidnapping. So money that is generated because of illegal activities is what is called as the proceeds of the crime. So this is the black money. So this particular black money is placed into the system. So this organization or an individual puts this money, which is the black money, into the financial institutes. So he places the money into the financial system. Once it is placed into the system, what does this individual do? He conducts complicated activities. Let's say, for example, he has an amount of about 10 lakhs. This 10 lakhs is broken down into 10 parts. It is sent to different 10 accounts, and from this 10 account, it can be reimbursed into one single account. So what is happening? The income tax authorities may not look into this transaction because this is not a huge amount of money. So the black money, which is garnered by the criminal activities, is put into the financial system. Complex set of activities are taken up. Web conversations happen on the financial system. So that is what is called as layering. And finally, when it is reintegrated into the system, that is what is called as integration. So returning of the money for the money launder is what is called as the integration process. So basically, this particular person may also buy real estate assets, or he may start investing in high value or the movable commodities such as diamonds and gold, or he may invest in gambling and shell companies, or he may also engage in round tripping as well. What do we understand by round tripping? Let's say, for example, there is this person who is conducting his illegal activities in India. Hypothetical example. So what does this person do? There is another company, let's say for example in Mauritius or any other country where the tax regime is not strict, where they have a lot of tax loopholes. In that particular case, the money is sent from India to Mauritius, and he starts investing in one of the shell companies in Mauritius, and then this money is routed as a genuine source back to India. So the money is sent from India to Mauritius. There are no strict rules. There are loopholes in the taxation system. Ultimately, the same money which was deposited in one of the shell companies comes back to India, which is also called as route tripping. So basically, when we speak about the money laundering issues, these things this takes place, so the proceeds of the crime will be entering into the system. So we required one of the authorities to look into the money laundering issue. We required one of the authorities to ensure that there is money laundering which can be prevented, and as a result what we have is one of the laws that is called as the PMLA, or the Prevention of the Money Laundering Act. So under the PMLA we have one of the sections called as section 48, which speaks about the authorities under the act, and we have another section 49, which is appointment and powers of authorities and other officers. So the Enforcement Directorate has taken its power under these two sections of the Prevention of the Money Laundering Act. Now let us try and understand what are the other sections which are important under the Prevention of the Money Laundering Act. Before we understand that, we have to understand one of the sections under the CRPC. Why is this section important? You will understand that eventually. This is section 105, which speaks about reciprocal arrangements regarding processes. What is this section all about? You don't have to go through this entire section. Let me simplify so that you understand why is this used under the PMLA. When we speak about an individual, let's say there is an individual who's moved from Delhi to Mumbai. This person has engaged himself in one of the money laundering activities. So what happens? The court of law in that particular jurisdiction, let's assume the Delhi High Court. The Delhi High Court has issued a summons to this accused. It has also issued a warrant for the arrest of an accused person. It has also issued a summons to any other person, so this person can attend and produce a document with respect to one of the crimes committed, or a search warrant is issued by Delhi High Court which shall be served or executed at any place. In that case, let's assume this person who is from Delhi is not in Delhi right now. He is moved to Mumbai. So what would happen? This particular summons order or the warrant order has to be executed. So when this individual is not in Delhi, but instead he is in Mumbai or in Bengaluru or in Chennai or in Hyderabad or any of the places, in that case the local jurisdiction of the court in any state or an area outside the said territories may send such summons or warrant in duplicate by post or otherwise to the presiding officer of that court to be served or the executed. So basically one of the courts in Delhi will now send it to another court in whose jurisdiction this accused is located. So that court will now get this particular summon or the warrant executed. So here what is happening? The person is moving from one area into another area. So that particular area where this person was originally present, they will post it to another area where this person is currently present, and ultimately this person's summon will be executed by that local jurisdiction. That is within India. Now what if it is outside India? What if it is in some other country? Now this person who is in India is the accused in one of the money laundering cases. Let's say he travels to United Kingdom, or let's say for example he travels to United States of America. So what happens in that case? In that case you would have the involvement of the central government. Since this is a person wanted in India, the central government will interact with the government of that particular country or India, and that country would also have some agreements as well. So this particular order by the court in India will be sent to that particular court in that jurisdiction where the central government is acting as a bridge, and ultimately this person is asked to return or that particular order is executed. So what is happening? In case there is a person who has done money laundering in India and he is moved out of India, so what we have is this particular section of the CRPC which will be used as this person has committed an illegal act under the PMLA. So what would happen? There would be a particular proceedings where the money has been laundered abroad. The PMLA court or the special court under the PMLA Act has the right to send a letter of rogatory under section 105. So what is this letter of rogatory? Basically these are the letters that are sent from one court in one country to the court in another country for obtaining the assistance. Now this person is not present in India, he is present in some other country, so we are making a request. So the court from one country to the court in another country sends some papers, which is what is called as letter of rogatory. So the said government can share these documents and evidence needed by the agency, and ultimately this will help in curbing the menace of money laundering. At what stage does the ED step into this investigation process? Whenever any offence is registered by a local police station which has generated proceeds of crime over and above 1 crore, the investigating police officer forwards the details to the ED. If the proceeds of the crime that the police have captured is more than 1 crore, in that case it has to file an FIR. Immediately after this, it has to send a notification to the Enforcement Directorate. So the Enforcement Directorate, after getting the notification from the local police station, will start interrogating that particular case and investigating the case. Alternatively, if the offence comes under the knowledge of the central agency, they can then call for the first information report or the charge sheet if it has been filed directly by the police official, which means the Enforcement Directorate is not given the information yet by the police station, but they have got the information, so they may call the police station and ask for the first information report or the charge sheet. So in these cases where it is more than 1 crore, what we will have is the Enforcement Directorate, which will immediately pitch in and they will investigate what this case is all about. What are the other important sections? Under the PMLA, the ED carries out search of the property and seizure money or documents after it has decided that money has been laundered. Under section 16, where it has the power to survey, and section 17, where it has the power to search and seizure under the PMLA. On the basis of that, the authorities will decide if arrest is needed as per section 19, which is the power of the arrest given under the PMLA. And under section 50, powers of the authorities regarding summons, production of documents and to give evidence, etc. The ED can also directly carry out search and seizure without calling the person for questioning as well. These are some of the powers that are given to the Enforcement Directorate so that they would be able to cut down the money laundering issues in the country. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says the status of India's national cyber security strategy. This article here is speaking about cyber security in the country. When we look into the last 1 year and during the COVID as well, what we did witness is the increase in the cyber crimes. What we also witnessed is the cyber warfare which was initiated by number of countries. Let's take the example of the power drop that happened in Maharashtra. Maharashtra also witnessed number of attacks on the power infrastructure, and at the same time there have been ransomware attacks on private companies as well. There have been hospitals whose data have been taken up. They have been demanding the ransom if data had to be given. So in this particular backdrop, as per the American cybersecurity firm Palo Alto's Network 2021, Maharashtra was the most targeted state in India, facing 42% of the ransomware attack. So this article currently goes on to say that we have seen cyber attacks on the government bodies, on the private bodies. We have also seen this on the civil society organizations, in fact people as well. In order to overcome all the cyber security threats, what we require is a structure, what we require is a process, what we require is a standard operating procedure, what we require is an institution to monitor it. So this article currently goes on to say that we have what is called as the National Cyber Security Strategy, which was conceptualized by the Data Security Council of India. So this Data Security Council of India happens to be an industry body which basically looks into the data protection in our country, which was set up by NASSCOM. It is committed to making cyberspace safe, secure, and also practice some of the standards and initiatives so that the cyber security and privacy can be kept up in this particular sector. So this particular organization has now come up with some recommendation. What are the recommendations given by this particular body? It focuses on three important aspects. One is to make it secure, second is to synergize it, third is to strengthen this particular process. What do we understand by the secure principle? This involves large-scale digitization of public services, supply chain security, critical information infrastructure protection, digital payment security, sectoral preparedness, state-level cyber security, and SMB preparedness along with advanced technology. Then we have the synergy, which includes internet infrastructure, standard development, cyber insurance, brand India, cyber diplomacy, cybercrime investigation. Then we have to strengthen the structure, character, institutions and governance, budget allocation, research, innovation, technology, capability and skill building, audit and assurance, incident crisis management, data security and governance. So if we are able to ensure that these three principles are followed along with their sub pillars, then what we will have is one of the structures for the cyber security. So if we have to look at the secure principle, it basically looks at large scale digitization of the public services. The government of India and the respective state governments provide number of public services. All these services will have to be digitized. This has to be evaluated, and assessment has to be conducted. It has to be provided with certification and ultimately rating of the core devices as well. So the services provided by the government as well as the state governments, these will have to be synchronized, and ultimately everything will have to be backed up on the digital platform. So the first important principle is large scale digitization of the public services. We don't have to stick to the traditional form of paperwork. Instead, everything has to be digitized on the cloud network. Then we have the supply chain security. There should be robust monitoring and mapping of the supply chain of the integrated circuits and electronic products. What do we understand by this? We recently saw a controversy that was brewing in United States of America. There is one of the Chinese company called as Huawei. Huawei is one of the companies which also is engaged in multiple components for the electronic manufacturing. What did United States of America say? United States of America had a very negative image of Huawei. It said that some of the electronic products or the products that is initiated by this particular company Huawei has some of the tools which can eavesdrops into conversation. So basically it goes on to say that some of the products, electronic products manufactured by Huawei, if it is integrated into an electronic product, this particular product has the capacity to take away the information which will be sent to the Chinese Communist Party. That is what United States of America said with respect to Huawei. So this article currently goes on to say that when it comes to the supply chain security, which means the integrated circuits, the electronic products from a particular company, this will also have to be monitored. So basically when a product is given by a company, this has to be tested, certification has to be provided that privacy of that particular person or the data is not collected and sent back to that particular country or that particular company. Even if the data is collected, for what purpose this data is collected should be given in the terms and conditions. So the supply chain security is basically about the products or one of the equipments that are basically used in that product and keeping a check on this particular product. Then we have critical information infrastructure protection, where the supervisory control and data acquisition security should be integrated with enterprise security. What do we mean by it? We have some of the critical infrastructure. Let's say for example the nuclear energy or the power sector. These are all the critical infrastructure. If there is no power, we would not be able to sustain ourselves. We would not be able to engage with our daily activities. If power is not given to the industrial bodies, the industrial bodies would not be able to function. So what we would have is a major problem if the critical infrastructure hits it. So what should happen? All the vulnerabilities within this critical infrastructure should be monitored time after time, and a software application for controlling the industrial processes, for gathering the real-time data should also be monitored. Is what is this critical information infrastructure protection? So the critical infrastructure, its information will have to be supported by these software applications. Then we have the digital payments. They should be mapping and modeling of devices and platform deployed, transacting entities, payment flows, interface and data exchange, as well as threat research and sharing of the threat intelligence. Then we should also devise state level cybersecurity policy, and these needs to be developed at the state level as well, where the precise architecture, its operations, governance model has to be developed by the respective state governments. Added to it, this report further goes on to say that budgetary provisions will have to be envisioned. What do we mean by budgetary provisions? Whenever the government is coming up with a budget every year, the annual statement will be released. As part of this annual statement, there has to be at least 1% that has to be recommended to be set aside for the cyber security. As of now, a minimum allocation of 0.25% of the annual budget should be given to the cyber security, and in the near future it should be raised to about 1%. So irrespective of which department, irrespective of which ministry, about 1% for this cyber security process will have to be kept up, says this article. Then a process for research, innovation, skill building and technology development has to be taken up. So the report suggests investing in modernization and digitization of the ICT technology. So this should be further bifurcated into short-term goals. It should be divided into long-term goals, and basically all the vision and the mission with respect to the short-term and the long-term goals will have to be met, and such should be on the basis of outcome-based model. What do we mean by outcome-based model? There is a thin line of difference between output and outcome. Let me explain the difference between output and outcome with the help of an example. Let's take the example of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. The Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is basically looking at sanitation. It is also looking at construction of the toilets. So what has the government of India done? It has given about 100 crores. It has asked the executive to build toilets as well. So the executive, let's say hypothetically in one of the regions, has constructed about 1000 toilets. So what is the output? The output is 1000 toilets. So the government is expecting, just because there are 1000 toilets, the sanitation provision is taken into picture, people would not openly defecate as well. But what is outcome? Outcome is it really happening? You have to test it. Is water coming to these toilets? Is the pit being cleaned every now and then? Are people actually aware of the toilets being constructed? On one side, you have the output, which is the data given by the executive, where they say the 1000 toilets have been constructed. But outcome is how many people are using it? Is there water to that particular toilet? What is the actual number of people who are using these toilets is the outcome. So when it comes to the research, innovation, skill building and technology, this should be based on outcome based, which means how many number of incidents are we able to cut down when it comes to the cyber security. It is just not about investments being made, it is about making sure that a firewall construction happens, there is security architecture that is built, there is no viruses or the trojans that are inserted into this particular system, there is no cyber warfare and ransomware attack does not happen. It is just not about the production, it is about how much we are able to prevent is the outcome. Then we have a national framework which should be devised in collaboration with institutions like the National Skill Development Corporation and the information security education awareness to provide global certifications in the security. Then we have the crisis management, which speaks about adequate preparation to handle the crisis. The DCSI recommends holding cyber security drills. What are these cyber security drills? We should always be aware and we should be ready for any eventual challenges. Let's say, for example, all of a sudden there is an attack, a cyber warfare from a state actor, or it can be a non-state actor. It can be a cyber warfare. So all of a sudden, if we are not ready, if there is an attack on our systems, everything will be destroyed. So we ourselves will have to conduct this cyber drill. All of a sudden, if one state is hitting another state, we should be ready and we should be prepared for it. So in advance, if we are prepared for it, we would be able to handle eventuality in the near future. So basically, what should happen? There should be cyber drills, which can also be like a competition between one state and another state within India. We know for the fact where are the flaws, the loopholes in the security architecture, so that we can rework on them. Even if there is a sabotage, even if there is destruction of the cyber security architecture, in that case, what is the backup plan that we need to have will be taken up as part of the crisis management. Then we have the cyber insurance, which means cyber insurance being yet to be research field must have an actual science to address cyber security risks in business and technology scenarios, as well as calculate the threat exposures. Just like we have the life insurance, we have the accident insurance, we have the health insurance, every year we do pay the premium for that particular particular insurance. Similarly, a company is also paying the cyber insurance as well. So in case a ransomware attack happens, they are able to not keep up to the data, their data is lost. In that case, they can file for a cyber insurance where money would be given by that particular company to the organization. Then there is cyber diplomacy, which plays a huge role in shaping India's global relations, where we have India speaking up to multiple other countries. Then we also have Tallinn Manual as well. We have number of other organizations which step in the form of United Nations. So we need to be constantly interacting with multiple other countries so that we can also share information. The information that we have can be shared with another country. Another country has discovered some ransomware or a virus or a trojan. The same is given to us, and ultimately we are building up the cyber diplomacy. Then cybercrime investigation, if there is a cyber warfare or an attack on one of the organizations or the companies or the ministry, in that case, who's conducted it, how should we prevent them in the near future, should be taken up. And finally, advanced forensic training for agencies to keep in the age of artificial intelligence, blockchain, internet of things, cloud and automation will also have to be taken up. So this article basically goes on to say that as of now it is yet not implemented. The government of India has said that it will be implementing it, but this should be expedited as soon as possible. Institutional structure has to be laid, who will take what responsibilities will have to be given in the standard operating procedure, so that we have a cyber security architecture is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Odisha plans steps against snake bites. Before we understand what is this article speaking about, let's have a general idea with respect to the snake bite. We have a particular word called as the snake bite envenoming. What is the snake bite envenoming? Let's say for example, there is an individual. This individual is bit by a snake. In that case, the venom enters into his blood, and what are the repercussions because of it is what is called a snake bite envenoming. Basically, it is a life-threatening disease that occurs because of the injection of toxins, that is the venom, following the bite of a venomous snake. If we look into the statistics, the exact number of snake bites is unknown in the entire world. An estimated 5.4 million people are bitten each other, with up to 2.7 million envenomings. Around 81,000 to 1,38,000 people die each year because of snake bites, and around 3 times as many amputations and other permanent disabilities are caused by snake bites annually. So this happens to be one of the most neglected tropical diseases, and India is one of the countries which also has the highest mortality rate from the snake bites, largely because of the poor access to the healthcare. Who are the major sufferers? Let's say for example, rural cropping and livestock workers, hunter or the gatherers and their children are among the most affected, and children are even more affected because of their body mass as well. Lack of footwear also contributes significantly to the risk of snake bites for both adults as well as children. So what are the health issues that can result because of the snake bites? So whenever there is a bite of a venomous snake, this can result in medical emergency, which can involve severe paralysis, and because of the severe paralysis, this person would not be able to breathe easy. So the first major health concern, it can result in severe paralysis. It can also lead to bleeding disorders, which can also cause fatal hemorrhage as well. It can also cause irreversible kidney failure, and it can also cause local tissue destruction, permanent disability, and limb amputation because of the poisonous venom. And as a result, when it comes to the snake bite, the major concerns involved, when this particular person is bitten, there will be multiple health concerns, and this person immediately goes to the hospitals, but the primary health centers in India do not have the anti venom. In fact, the doctors are not trained sufficiently to deal with the bites, and if a patient is treated with anti-snake venom without much delay, the impact could be reduced. But the problem is we do not have the anti-venom for different types of snakes. Remember, different types of snakes have different types of venoms. We need to have anti-venom medicine for different types of snakes, but we do not have the anti-venom medicine is the first major concern. And added to it, the snake bites are also considered as a poor man's disease, and as a result, you do not have much of the companies and organizations involving themselves in the funding, involving themselves in the research. In fact, the governments have also not prioritized as well. On one side, we do not have the anti-venom medicines. On the other side, since it is a poor man's disease, companies are not investing more on this particular sector. So what is the World Health Organization strategy? The World Health Organization is focusing on 50% reduction in mortality and disability caused by snakebite envenoming by the year 2030. It is also planning to boost the production of quality antivenoms, and it says this particular process has to be sustainable, it has to be safe, it has to be stable, and at the same time this particular medicine has to be affordable at a reasonable cost. So it is planning to boost the production across multiple countries. It is also discussing with multiple countries to integrate snakebite treatment and response into the national health plans as well. This is what is happening at the international level. Now, if we have to consider in the state of Odisha, as snakebites kill more people than natural disasters, the state government has decided to come up with standard operating procedure and institutional capacity building to deal with this menace. If we look into the statistics, the state has lost 5,964 lives from snake bites since 2015-16, with an average annual death exceeding 800, making it one of the most snake bite prone states in India. In fact, in 2015, Odisha was the first state in the country to declare snake bite a state specific disaster. In order to overcome this, the experts have emphasized raising awareness among the people. In fact, there should also be trained village level snake rescuers as well in order to reduce the man reptile conflict. Added to it, at the national level, the health ministry has also issued guidelines to be followed by all the state health institutions to tackle and deal with this serious concern. In fact, there is another web application called as Serpents, providing real time help to the victims, location of hospitals, and related information with respect to the snake bites. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says a North Pole for Science and Technology. The article here is speaking about Yelavarthi Nayudama. This is important from the preliminary examination point of view. Who is Y Nayudama? He was a chemical engineer by training, and he was the director of Central Leather Research Institute Madras and has contributed to its initial development. Nayudama also served as Director General of the CSIR. How has he contributed to the Indian leather industry? He was the director of Central Leather Research Institute. He was responsible for building the international image of this institute, and he established close ties with the Indian leather industry. In fact, he also sent leather technologists to offer assistance to many tanneries in the foreign countries. In fact, he also asked them to come down to India, learn about the tannery technology, and we also exchanged information as well. How has he contributed to the social cause in the country? When you go back to the 1970s, many people did not want to work in the tannery industry. Why? Because this was an industry which dealt with the hides and the skins of the dead animals, and as a result, there was stink smell, there was disgusting smell, and people were not ready to work in this particular industry. So Nayudama was able to remove the stench smell and improve the skills of those involved in this particular sector. In fact, he also promoted the leather products to improve the incomes of the tannery workers, and as a result of this change that he has brought about, there was a change in this entire sector. So basically, people who were little reluctant to work back in the 1970s, because they were able to find livelihood means and mechanisms, because the disgusting smell was completely removed because of some chemicals, because they were able to improve on their skill set, this ultimately provided gainful employment to number of people in that particular time. As a result, the leather products and the leather industry gained public importance. They were also accepted by the people. Indian leather products were also in great demand in the international markets, and people from various communities started involving themselves in the leather industry, breaking the traditional barriers and prejudices. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says time for change. The article here is speaking about India Meteorological Department. We did speak about this particular article in our daily quiz recently. We did discuss about the El Nino. We did discuss about the El Nino Modoki. We did also discuss about the long period average as well. All of this has been discussed in the last 1 week's daily quiz. Kindly look into it. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. Discuss the powers of the Enforcement Directorate under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Next question. Discuss the key recommendations of the Data Security Council of India with respect to framing a robust and holistic cybersecurity policy. So please write all your answers on the comment section. Peer review. Do give positive feedback to your friends' answers. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.